Hey everybody, Rob here. Welcome to this presentation on how to sell multiple 6 to 7 figures of online courses, training programs, things like that, in a way that's working right now and is proven and effective. The first thing that's really important to understand is when you're going to be selling your products online and when you're going to be selling information or education or training, that it's much easier to focus on just starting off with one thing, okay? Now, in the past, what a lot of people did was they would sell things like ebooks, okay? Ebooks were extremely popular, and this was a way for people to start selling products and to start making money online. They weren't very hard to create, right? Anyone can just open their computer, start typing, and write up an ebook. The problem is that they don't sell for very much money. And with things like Amazon Kindle and the Kindle store, the price of ebooks has actually gone down massively because you can go on Kindle and you can get ebooks for like free in many cases, or sometimes like a couple bucks, okay? So it's very hard to make money doing that. Even if you're selling an ebook through your own website and you're charging a higher price, you're really looking at book prices. So you're looking at, probably around about the $20 range. At which point it's really hard to make money with that, right? If you wanted to make $3,000 in a month, you would have to sell 100 copies of your book just to make $3,000, which is like a basic income, a basic living, right? So it's very hard to build a business that way. And if you want to get to these kind of numbers, to get to 6, multi-6, or even 7 figures, then you're not going to do it with just ebooks. You're not going to do it with low ticket, cheap products, okay? So what you want to do instead is sell something that goes for a higher price. So what I would recommend is a course that sells for $1,000 to $2,000. This is something that is actually very easy to sell. A lot of people, when they're beginners, they can feel put off by the idea of charging those kind of prices. But it's actually not very hard to sell a $1,000 or a $2,000 product. You've probably purchased multiple products in that price range yourself in your lifetime. If you think about it, whenever you go out and buy the new iPhone, that's a $1,000 product. If you've ever bought a nice bike or a brand new nice TV or a decent laptop, anything like that, those are probably all $1,000 or even multi-$1,000 products. So it's not actually very hard to sell something at this price range. People buy offers like this every single day and they spend this kind of money. And the other thing that's really important to understand, and this is something that we've proven through years of testing and repeated experience and looking at not only obviously my own business, but tons and tons of other people's businesses, it's no harder to sell a $1,000 or a $2,000 offer than it is to sell one for $200, $300, $400, $500. So you can actually get as many sales and you can make a lot more money just by deliberately picking premium pricing and selling a bigger, more expensive course rather than going for the low end. Because the low end products, if you start selling a course for $247 or $197 or something like that, again, you start running into this problem where the price is too low and you're not making enough money per sale and your margins are lower, and you suddenly have to be selling hundreds and hundreds of copies to make any real money. And that means lots more work. It means lots more people to deal with. It's a real headache, right? So especially if you're a beginner, it's much easier to start off by focusing on just selling one product through one sales funnel and one process to sell and deliver that product, and to charge reasonably high prices so that you make a good profit and you can really then focus on your customers. And that way, you're going to be dealing with a lot less people, so you have less people to deal with, you have less customer support issues, you have less sort of managing the business stuff to do. You're also going to make probably more money because it's easier to do, because there's less work involved, right? If you want to sell a $1,000 or a $2,000 course, you can go out there, you can set up one process to do that, and then you can just focus all your effort on making that process work and making that the best possible and sending people into that so that you get customers, right? And from there, you're doing way less than if you're going out and you're trying to sell hundreds and hundreds of ebooks. and you've written 10 different ebooks on different topics, or 10 little small courses on different topics to try and get more sales in order to make the same amount of money. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a lot less work to actually create the product. It's much easier to create $1,000 or $2,000 program than it is to create, 4 or 5 cheaper ones in terms of ebooks or smaller courses, right? And it's much less effort and work to sell them. If you're just selling one course, you can just focus on that. So by actually refining it down to just focusing on one thing to begin with, you can grow your business much faster, you can make more money, and you can be a lot more successful. And you can reach 6 to multiple 6 to even 7 figures with just one really good product. It is possible to do. Now, a lot of the times, what people will do is they'll expand their product line after the fact. So you may start off with one program, which is again what I recommend, and then when that program is selling and it's doing really well, and you have a good business that's making you good money, you can decide to add more products to that. And so you could add a second course, or you could add a high ticket mastermind that you charge $10, $20, $30, $50,000 for, if that's something you wanted to do. And then you can sell your existing clients on the higher ticket offer, and a bunch of them are going to come over and make you more money, and that's just all profit, right? So you can use a course like this as really a foundation to build a really, really vast business, an expansive business empire, if that's something that you choose to do, right? It's a really, really great starting point if you want to build a really big business, and it's a really, really great place to focus if you just want a business that's going to be like a lifestyle business and pay for you to just have a really great time and pay for all your bills and make you a decent amount of money. So whichever your goal is, if you want a business that is kind of a lifestyle business where you can do the whole online entrepreneur thing and you can travel and you can have fun, you can have lots of free time, then what I recommend is that you start off with one program, you just focus on that, you focus on one way to sell it, so one sales funnel. Then, if you want to build a really, really big business and have lots of products and a big brand and make tons and tons and tons of money, I also recommend starting this way, okay? So this is the best method by far in the current year, in the current era, with the way that internet marketing is right now, with the way that online advertising is right now, and how competitive the market is. This is by far, without a shadow of a doubt, the best way to begin. And if you're struggling with your business and you've been doing lots and lots of stuff here and there and you already have an existing business, then refining your business down and doing this is a really, really great way to kind of reset all that chaos and get yourself to a point of stability that you can then go and expand from, okay? So what I want to do now is teach you what we're doing to sell those kind of courses in the current environment, because there's a little bit of nuance to selling a product that's $1,000, $2,000. It's not something that people just generally will go and impulse buy, right? If you're selling something that's like $30, $50, people will just impulse buy that, even to some extent a product that's maybe $100, right? But when you start to get into hundreds or thousands of dollars, well, now it's something that people start to think about and consider, okay? Now, the one caveat that I will say there, which I mentioned before, is that it's actually not really any harder to sell a $1,000 or $2,000 offer than it is to sell a $200 or a $250 offer. And you could probably think of examples like this in your life where you have bought a $1,000 product and you probably put about as much consideration into that purchase as you would for a purchase that's a couple $100. I can think of many examples of my own where this is the case. So for one example recently, I just bought a new laptop. It was about £2,000, which is like, I don't know, $2,500 or something like that. And I kind of thought about it for a while, and then I was like, do I really need this? I have a really good computer already. And I thought, you know what, it's a business expense, it's worth the upgrade. So I went and I purchased it. And it's the same for a lot of people if they're doing something like buying a phone, right? If you go out and you think, my phone's is a couple generations old now, I'll probably just buy the new iPhone. It's a $1,000 purchase, but it's worth it, so I'll just go and get it. You maybe think about it a little bit. Maybe you think, oh, how are the finances this month? Can I afford this? Yeah, I can do it. Okay, we'll go and buy it, right? And a lot of the time it's the same process for something that's only a couple $100. So if I think about recently, I bought a jacket and it was about $270, $280. I went into the shop and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, but I don't really need a jacket, but I kind of like it. And then I went away and then I came back and I bought it, right? So it was a little bit of a thought process there. And it wasn't really an issue of whether I could afford it. It was just like, do I really need this? It's a price point that it's enough for me to just kind of think about it a little bit, okay? So the level of thought and decision making that goes into people buying a $200, $250, $300, $400 product is kind of about the same as buying a $1,000 to $2,000 product. When you actually start selling them, you realize this. And if you've never done this before, that might seem surprising to you. It might not. You may think that makes perfect sense just straight off the bat, in which case, good. But that's the case. That's something that we've found. This isn't theory. This isn't my, conjecture or something. This is from years and years of testing and actual experience and observation, okay? So in order to do that, there's a couple things that you want to do, right? When you're selling information, it's very important that you're informing people of how your products can help and benefit them, because the value of an information product like a course, like a training program, like a membership, anything like that, isn't necessarily immediately obvious to people. So that's what you have to convey to people, and you have to show them how it's going to do that. Now, in the past, this was done very often through long, lengthy sales processes, okay? And the problem with these, one of the biggest ones is that people drop off. So you'll start off with, a lot of leads or a lot of viewers coming into your business. And then by putting them through this really, really long, lengthy sales process, loads of those people lose interest because it's just taking too long, and then they leave and they go do something else, like watch funny videos on YouTube, right? And then they don't buy your product because they don't get to the end of the process. This is a real problem, because when you're bringing people into your business, you're driving what's called traffic or clicks to your website, okay? Then you want to make sure that you're capitalizing on as much of those people as possible, and you're converting as much of those people as possible into paying customers. Every single person that doesn't buy is basically energy that you've expended in your marketing that isn't being recovered and turning into profit, right? So you want to make sure that as much people are going through your sales process and actually purchasing your product at the end of that as possible. Naturally, that's how you're going to make the most money. That's how your business is going to be most successful. And that's the goal, right? That's the whole point, okay? So in the past, what people did was, like I said, these long, lengthy sales processes. Eventually, these got refined down into doing webinars. Now, the old-fashioned webinar model basically worked like this. You would start off with some kind of an ad. So that could be a paid ad, like a Facebook or a YouTube ad. That could also be a piece of free content, like a social media post, that directs people into your sales funnel. Now, when you send them into your sales funnel, you would send them to an opt-in page. And at this point, a certain percentage of these people are going to actually opt in and join your email list or give you some kind of a contact details. Some people would use a phone number rather than an email. I prefer using an email. There's a lot of reasons for that, which I'll explain. But here, not everyone's going to opt in, right? So if you have a good opt-in page that's been optimized and tested, you're probably going to be getting around 30 to 50% of people actually giving you their contact details, okay? I've had pages that do as well as like 60, 65%, but that's really, really good. That's really high, and that's after a lot of trial and error and testing and perfection. Generally speaking, a lot of people's pages will do way, way worse than that. A lot of people's pages will do 20, 25%, right? So if you're only getting 25% of people opting in, that's really, really tricky. But if you have a decent page, and I can show you specific structures for how to write these pages, how to lay them out and format them, and what to say on them in order to get those really high numbers that I was talking about. There's certain techniques that you want to use in order to get, 40, 50, 60% of people opting in. But let's say that you have a pretty good page and you're getting 40% of people opting in. That means if you send 1,000 people to this page through advertising or through your content marketing, only 400 of them actually end up on your list and in your sales funnel and in a situation where they might buy your product, right? So this is really, really, really key, okay? Because All of these people, you have expended energy in order to get them there. Either you've been spending money on your ads, right? In which case, that's literally money that you have spent that you want to make back and turn into a profit. You want to multiply that. You know, you want to be making $3 for every dollar you spend on advertising. So if loads of these people are leaving, that's obviously a problem, right? And that's money wasted. That's money thrown away. Similarly, if you have spent, time on content marketing, on producing videos or social media content or any kind of stuff to promote your business and get people to this page, and they don't opt in, well, that's time, that's energy and your effort and your life that's then being wasted and thrown away. So it's really, really important that people aren't dropping off at these different steps, right? You want to make sure as many people as possible are progressing all the way through to the point where they actually purchase from you. And going back to this old model of how people used to sell online and used to sell these kind of courses. So you would send people from some kind of an ad to your opt-in. A percentage of those people would opt in, right? So they would give you their email or their phone number. In the past, what people would do is they would schedule either a webinar viewing, or in some cases, some people would schedule a phone call. So they would have either themselves or a salesperson would then phone that person up. If they gave their phone number, they'd get them on a call and they would go through a sales presentation with them. And that would be scheduled in so that would happen later, right? So they would pick a time to do this. Or people would view a webinar. This is the most common one. And the way the software used to work is that basically once they opted in, they would get like a little calendar or time picker and they could choose, I want to watch this webinar tomorrow at 3 p.m. That sounds convenient for me, and they would choose that, okay? And the idea then was that they would schedule that in and they would come and watch the webinar, okay? Now the problem with this is a huge percentage of these people leave because they just opted in. You say, hey, we're going to give you this thing, we want to give you this cool training or whatever, and then they get there and they schedule it and they're like, okay, well, I can't watch it now because it won't let me, so what am I going to do? It's either later on or it's tomorrow, or in some cases it'll be 2 days from now. Well, they're going to go away, right? So they schedule a time and then they leave, and you're just hoping that they come back. So then the time to view the webinar rolls around and you send them out an email. This is how it worked. People would send them out an email saying, okay, here's your link to the webinar. It's going to be live, this time. Make sure you show up. Here's a reminder. And a whole bunch of these people that went through this process and scheduled a time, again, would just drop off, right? Because they'd schedule a time, they'd be interested, and they were probably genuinely interested at this stage, but then life happens. They go away and suddenly they're busy, or their kids need their attention, their wife needs their attention, they've got some other commitment that they have, they're busy, they're tired, they're at work, and they don't show up. So the no-show rate was huge, right? Because then you'd be expecting all these people to schedule, to go and then read their email, see the email of you telling them that the webinar was available, and then send them a link, right, to watch the webinar. So they'd have to click through, right? And all of these stages, you're just losing people, right? This is just all like a loss. That is money and energy and time that you've expended to get these people here, that they just don't even get to the point where you actually have an opportunity to sell them. So that's literally just wasted time and money and energy that isn't going anywhere and isn't going to make you any profit. And for years and years and years and years, this has been the way that people sold their stuff. And the hope is that once they finally get to this stage where they watch the webinar and they watch it all the way to the end, and a lot of these webinars are pretty long, they'd be an hour, 2 hours, something like that, sometimes even more than that. Finally, when they got to the end, you'd say, okay, here, buy my product. And they would go to your checkout page, they'd put their billing details in, and they would purchase. Or in this case, right, you'd phone them up. This would be the other way of doing it. If you're doing it with the phone sales version, you'd phone them up, you'd do a sales call with them, then you'd sell them. But again, a whole bunch of people who scheduled a phone call with you would just not answer the phone, or they'd drop off. And that's time that you've just wasted there, because now you're sitting there calling people hello, and they're just ignoring you, right? And they're just not interested, okay? And that's just such a waste of time, such a waste of money. It's so inefficient, and it's so much work as well. Like all of this effort just to get people to watch a video and buy your product. It's crazy, right? So I thought this was ridiculous. You know, I when I was in this position, this is how everyone used to sell products. And this is how a lot of people still will teach you to do it. A lot of the gurus, a lot of the experts out there will basically tell you, go out, you know, set this situation up where either you're getting people to watch a webinar, you're getting them on a sales call, and blah, 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 blah. That's what they're teaching you. It's this. And it's crazy. I think it's absolutely nuts because I tried that and yeah, it works, but it's so much effort. It's so much work. It's crazy. I don't want to work that hard. And the amount of money you make, yes, you can make good money doing this, but you can make way, way, way more by doing something much smarter, which is what I'm about to teach you, okay? So what I realized was I looked at these drop-off rates and I start to think, every single step that you have in the process of your sales cycle is a place that people can leave and not continue to the next step. And the goal is obviously to get them all the way to the end where they actually purchase and they become a customer, right? So this whole sales cycle needs to be crunched down somehow so that we can get rid of all these drop-off points. So that's what I started working on. And what I figured out is what I'm going to teach you now, which is the new way that we're using to sell courses and coaching programs and training and things like that online. And if you want to make 6 or 7 figures and build a really successful business selling courses, selling training programs, selling education, this is how you should do it. It's much less work. It's much more effective. You're going to get more sales. It's going to take less time. It's much easier to manage, and it just works better. That's the long and short of it. It's just better. So what we do is we just eliminate all of this nonsense of scheduling and blah, 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 and people leaving. And we just do this. So we have our ad or our piece of content on social media. And from that, we send them to the opt-in. And when they opt in, right, which again, you know, we get really good opt-in rates because I have frameworks and blueprints and techniques to use on these pages to make them really effective. So we get about 40-50% of people opting in most of the time, which is really, really good numbers, right? That's much better than saying having 25-30%, which is what a lot of people are at, okay? And there are specific things that you want to put on these pages, that you want to say on these pages to make them work this well, okay? But what we would do is we'd get them to the opt-in, and then once they opt in, we just send them straight to the webinar. We just say, here you go, you can watch it right now. So now, out of these people that opt in, 100% of them get to the next page and see the webinar. Because every single person who completes the opt-in gets instantly redirected to the webinar page. So not all of them are going to watch it all the way through. Of course, you're going to get people who start watching it and then they don't have time or they leave or something like that, right? But the attendance rate is 100%, people that actually see the page, and the amount of people that just think, oh yeah, well, I'll just watch it now, is really, really high. It's much higher. Compared to this, where you've got people leaving here, people leaving here, people leaving here, people leaving here, and they never get to your checkout page, right? So with this, it's very, very simple. You have your ad, you get them to opt in, so now you have their email, right? And they all see the webinar, so now a whole bunch of them just buy and pay you money straight off the bat. And you don't have to do anything because this is all automated. So it just works, right? So you just have a business now that makes you money by sending people to this page. It's like 2 pages to start off with. So simple to deal with, right? So simple to set up. But you also have their email. So anyone who doesn't buy, well, you can just follow up with their email exactly the same as this, and you can remind them. And you can check up with them. You say, hey, come back, watch this. Or, hey, we've got something else for you to watch. If you weren't interested in that, check out this other piece of content we've created, and then that will sell them the product. So you can still get all the advantage of this, of being able to follow up with your leads and nurture them and convert them later down the road, but it just works way better on the front end. There's also a format and a structure to how you want to set this video up and how you want to frame it in order to basically align with human psychology and the way that people naturally go about making the decision to buy things. And when you combine all of these elements, right? When you combine massively shortening the sales cycle like this and cutting out all these drop-off points with having all the right frameworks to build the opt-in pages and to create the video, and you know what to say here in order to reach those people and talk to them, then you can get tons and tons of people coming to actually buy your product, because a lot of them are going to see your sales presentation and stick around, and they're going to hear what they need to hear to make a decision, and then they're going to buy your stuff. So when you know how to do this, you can build your business much faster, you can make a lot more money, and you can do it in much less time because it's way easier to do. It's way less effort to manage and to create all this stuff, and it's way easier to keep on top of all of it. There's a lot less hassle and moving parts to deal with. So this is what I recommend. And if you're interested in learning how to do this, if you're interested in getting all of the frameworks in order to build opt-in pages, like I explained, that convert at a very high rate, and in order to set up and structure your sales videos, your webinars, and your presentations in a way that actually works, in a way that aligns with human psychology and the way people buy, in order to convert these people that you're bringing into your business as leads into paying customers. And if you want to learn how to follow up with the people who say no so that you can generate even more sales on the back end, then go ahead and jump on board my Virtual Executive Program. There's a link down below this video. And when you get inside the Virtual Executive Program, it's going to walk you step by step through every single thing that you need, every little piece of information that you have to understand in order to build a successful online course or information product business. Okay, so everything that you need is all in there. We've really refined it down to the necessary components. And this is a process that, like I've said, we've optimized, we've tested, we've figured out all the details, the nuances already. It's all in there, all the answers that you need, and it's going to literally guide you step by step, hold your hand through doing everything, how to build the pages, what software to use, what to say on them, how to structure them, the kind of layout you should use, everything, how to do it without any coding experience. So you don't need to be a techie person, you don't need to be a web developer or anything like that. And how to do it cheaply and cost effectively as well. So you don't have to go and invest tons and tons of money on designers and all that kind of stuff in order to get your business set up and actually working and making you money, okay? And like I said, you can do this with just one product and one sales funnel. That's all this is, right? When you're selling a $1,000 to $2,000 product, let's say you're selling a $2,000 product, well, you only need 5 sales of that to be making $10,000, okay? So that's really, really easy to do. You know, if you get 5 sales in a month, you can make 10K a month. That's 6 figures, okay? So now you're at least in the 6-figure range. But really what you should be thinking is, how do I sell 5 copies a week? Which is only 1 a day, and that's not even including the weekend. So it's not that much at all, you know? You could sell 5 copies of a program like this every day. So to get 5 a week, again, is very, very doable, even if you're a beginner. And at that point, you're making $480,000 a year. So you're halfway to 7 figures from just one product and one sales funnel that's really, really easy to set up and manage. And you can do this by yourself, just with your laptop. That's all you need. Just a laptop and an internet connection. And you can do it from your house, or your office, your bedroom, from a hotel, if that's what you want to do. I like to do that. It's really fun, you know, just go and work in a hotel and chill out and have a nice time. Get some room service, right? So it's really, really great. It's an incredible business model, and this is much more effective. It shouldn't take a genius to realize that doing it this way works way better than doing it the old way, okay? So again, if you want to learn the specifics of how to build these kind of opt-in pages, how to set up and structure your video, how to build this kind of a sales funnel, how to create a course and a product that you can actually sell for this kind of money, that you can sell for $1,000 to $2,000, then all of that information and everything that you need is available inside the Virtual Executive Program right now. So go ahead and click the green button below this video and get registered for that. You're going to really enjoy what's inside, and I'll see you soon, okay?